Why have I chosen to do this today? Well, as we would all know from media reports, many people now in our state, unfortunately, are becoming the victims of home invasions. People that come into their house to rob them or cause harm to them and their families. And some of these people are fighting back against the criminals. And I'm not certain that the current laws protect homeowners, protect people when they fight back against these criminals. And in fact, I met a man, he was here this morning actually at Parliament, but I went out to his house last week. Aaron, he's in my electorate in Clyde. Unfortunately, I think probably all members here have constituents in their electorate that have suffered some form of home invasion. And what happened, he lives in a really nice new estate. I was quite impressed by how quiet and beautiful it was. Nice neighbours that all talk to each other. It's the classic Australian dream, like a beautiful estate, nice house with his family. He lives with his wife and daughter. But one night last year, in August last year, a year ago, he heard a noise. And he said, fortunately, his teenage daughter was not home that night. She was with a friend. But him and his wife were home. His wife called the police, as the Attorney General suggested that people should do, and yes, they should call the police. But then they have a choice, what do they do next? Because the police take some time and the criminals are very quick. So Aaron was prepared, he had a baseball bat. He picked up the baseball bat and he went out and confronted this intruder in his home. And the intruder had some possessions of his. The intruder panicked and ran away into the night. I said to Aaron, what do you think would have happened if you had have actually hit this guy in the head with your baseball bat? And no one can actually give me a straight answer of whether that's considered proportionate and reasonable under the law, because the intruder was not armed. The intruder was not armed and Aaron was, and maybe he would have gotten into serious trouble and would have been awful. And the one thing that, when you speak to people who are victims of home invasion, one thing that you really notice is the trauma that's inflicted on them, because no longer do they feel safe in their own home. In fact, Aaron told me that he's moving house. He doesn't want to live in that house anymore. Another victim of home invasion, who was also here at Parliament this morning, Carly, she had a person come into their home and steal their possessions while they were home. And again, similar scenario, doesn't feel safe in her home, and her and her partner are actually leaving the state. What an awful, awful state of affairs. They were lucky though, because there's been other cases. I'll give you another case. In Queensland a while ago, there was a father with his wife in a home. Many of these cases are families. And he heard noises in the night. And he went to check on his infant daughter's bedroom, and there was a man standing in his infant daughter's bedroom. It turned out that this man was a convicted sex offender, and there was an altercation. I think every father can sympathise with this man, and he fought the intruder. And so what happened was the police arrived. So the police were called again, in this case. The police arrived and the men were having an altercation. The intruder died. He had a heart attack. And this man was charged with murder. So a man defending his infant daughter in his own home against an intruder was charged with murder. He served time in remand whilst he was awaiting trial. And eventually his case went to trial. And he was acquitted. He was acquitted, but not because the self-defence was reasonable and proportionate. He was acquitted because a medical expert said that the heart attack was due to the intruder's methamphetamine addiction, and he had a bad heart, and it caused him to have a heart attack. There was another case which was only brought to my attention after the media this week. A Victorian man. He was in his home. Two men came to his home, not to rob him, but to do him harm, to hurt him. There'd been some incident between, it was over girls or something, but they came round to hurt him. And of course there was an altercation. At some point, this man who had 2 intruders in his house with the intent to do him harm, at some point he picked up a knife from his kitchen, as many people would in a panic. He said in the court transcript that he didn't actually remember doing that. This is common to victims of crime and victims of trauma. They forget things. And he picked up a knife and he stabbed one of the men and he killed him. He's currently serving a sentence for murder in Victorian prison. Now, I think that all Victorians think, or most Victorians at least, think that people in their homes defending themselves against these criminals the government and the law should have their back when they fight back against crime. It happens too much at the moment where criminals act with impunity, and then when people fight back, they're worried if they're going to get in trouble with the law. And I don't want them worrying whether they're going to get in trouble with the law. When people fight back against criminals, I think that we should stand with the people fighting back. And if a criminal gets hurt by a homeowner because they're creeping around in their house at night trying to steal their possessions or cause them harm, well, I don't have much sympathy for them. They've invaded someone's home, and I think most people wouldn't have much sympathy for them. Possessions are one thing, right? Like if someone steals your possessions, you can claim it on insurance and stuff. But I don't know, I'm a father, I've got 3 kids, anyone, if you've got an intruder in your home, most Victorians, I think, don't know the law and don't even think about the law. When someone comes into their house and they want to defend their family, they're not thinking about the law, they're thinking about defending their family. And I think that is all they should be thinking about. It's sad that it happens in the first place. Now, I've constructed this motion in such a way that it is very minimal. It is not an inquiry that is going to embarrass anyone. It's asking the Victorian Law Reform Commission to review these laws. We know the Commission can do this because they did this once back in 2013. And I'm asking them to do it again because I think that with the number of home invasions at the moment and the number of people that are suffering this, sooner or later, we're going to have a situation where someone that I think most people in Victoria sympathise with people defending their homes, sooner or later, someone's going to get in trouble with the law. And I want to make sure that the law has their back, that the law looks out for them. And so I cannot understand why anyone would not want to look at this and make sure that our laws are fit for purpose, because that's our job as MPs and as members of Parliament. That's our job, to make sure the laws are fit for purpose. There are a large number of crimes happening at the moment. Sooner or later, someone's going to fight back. The courts or the police or whoever might think that they went too far and they'll get into trouble. I want to stop that happening. It's about time that Victorians stop being scared and we started making the criminals scared. Thank you.